constructing. This is a 3,300 litre fish tank. We're going to have 2 gravel beds with bell siphons and a deep water bed over there. Alright, and our filter's there. None of it's been put together or plumbed, so we've got to make all the components. Now the first thing that we're going to start with is focusing on our fish tank. And what we're going to do is build the solid lift outlet for this tank. You'll see the outlet of the tank is at the top of my fish tank. And in order for us to calculate all the required sizes and dimensions, we're obviously going to have to measure our tank to then work out how big our solid lift needs to be. So let's just check the diameter of this tank. This is 204 centimeters. So the key thing with a solid lift is it must go to halfway on the tank. Yeah? So that means the length of my solid lift is going to be 1 meter. Okay? The height of my solid lift, what's important is to actually measure the height of the outlet. So we have an understanding of how high the outlet is. So if you just measure the height of the outlet of that pipe from the bottom of the tank inside to the height of the bottom of that outlet.
Yeah, you can say it's the bottom. Straight in it's about 900.
Okay, cool. So then let's go back to our workstations. We've taken our 2 main measurements on our tank, and let's now go calculate how we're going to actually build the solid lift outlet. Okay, so here's our fish tank. The measurements that we took from here to here was 100 centimeters to the center of my tank. Correct? The height from here to here was 90 centimeters. Now, when you're building your solid lift, the smallest pipe that I recommend using if your fish tank is over 1,000 liters is going to be a 75 mil or bigger. 75 mil pipe is here. How do we know it's 75 mil? It's the inner diameter of the pipe. You'll see the inner diameter is 75 mil. So that's when I'm talking 75 mil pipe, that's what I'm referring to. Okay, 75 mil plus. If you use a smaller pipe than that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a lot of blockages inside and you're going to restrict the water flow. To give you an idea, the maximum flow of 110 mil pipe is 10,000 liters an hour. Yeah? So that gives you an idea that the bigger the pipe, the more it's going to flow, especially for, I'm talking gravity flow here. Okay. So, we know that this is going to be 75 mil, this is going to be 75 mil. One of the things that you're going to have is on a junction where my water is coming out, my solids are going to be moving very slowly by the time they get to this point. And that's why we increase the pipe to 110 and then back to 75 to allow it to flow through. Okay? So how does it look? Here's an example of a solid lift that we made. Okay, that's the bottom drain pipe with the grooves. The grooves is for only half of the pipe, from the center to half. That's where we've got our grooves. The size of the groove has to be big enough to allow the fish waste to escape. Got a 90-degree bend. And over here is what we call our little trick. How do we go from 75 to 110? Quite simply, we have a 110 end cap and we cut a hole, we heat it up. I'm going to show you how to do that now to be able to push that through. Increases it, and then I've got my outlet here. to connect on to go outside of my pipe.
Don't you get accumulation of waste because it's going out on that top part?
Over here,
No, up that? Like up.
yeah,
Yeah, in
No.
that portion.
that's just my overflow. In case my solid lift blocks, my water can overflow into here and it'll allow it to go out. So this has to be below the top of my tank, the height of my tank.
But also, if you close that up, it will create a vacuum, and it will actually suck your. It will create a suction and just empty your fish tank. Yes.
Oh, shoot.
Correct. Okay, so what are the tools that we're going to need? The first tool, a little angle grinder. Okay. When you're using tools like this, you must be careful. Alright, this can chop a finger off, and that's where we've got our first aid box behind me here, but hopefully no one's going to be using it today. Okay, angle grinder is great for cutting the grooves in a pipe. A hole saw. A hole saw is what we're going to be using to drill through a pipe to expand it in order to push another pipe through it. And the way that we soften pipe is using not a hairdryer, heat gun. Okay? And obviously a hacksaw. Now, these tools and obviously a tape measure are the first things that you need to buy. It makes your life so much simpler. So you go out and you invest in good equipment because it's going to really simplify the journey. Okay, so let's make the bottom section of the pipe first. First of all, we'll measure. We know that it's 100 centimeters long. I also know that I'm going to have a bit of an end cap on there. Okay, that's going to bend up. So I need to measure 100 centimeters. It's going to be over here. For that, I'm actually just going to cut it with a hacksaw. Alright, that we'll hold on to. You can probably use it later. Now the next thing is, you'll notice I don't have an end cap that fits. Oh no, what am I going to do? Tell us. I'm going to make that end cap on here to seal it off. Okay, obviously if I don't close that off, what's going to happen? The fish are going to swim straight out. Okay, so the way that we do that is actually quite simple. Some grooves. I'm going to bend those out for now. Then I'm going to cut another 2 grooves. Faster. Right, and then I'm going to actually heat up. What you'll see is when I've heated it, I can fold it over. See how easy that is. Okay, Now, anyone got a bottle of water on them? Because the moment that I put a bit of water on this, there we go, it's going to set. Feel that? Okay. You can dip it into a bucket, but that's going to set. So now, what you can see is I'm slowly making my end cap. Now all I need to do is this side. The key with heating pipe is you don't want to burn the pipe. If it goes black, you're actually weakening it. Okay.
And that also allows for water then to be sucked in from the end cap side, correct?
It will allow a little bit, but it doesn't have to be waterproof.
Yeah.
Okay. Pull that down. What we've got is I know my fish can no longer escape. Okay. So all that's done is close it up enough so my fish don't get out. Yeah? The next thing I'm going to do is my grooves, my outlets. Now how do you know how big that outlet groove must be?
By the size of the small fish you're putting inside.
It has to be smaller than the smallest fish you've got. What I love with solid lift outlets compared to bottom drains and all other alternatives is as your fish get bigger, you simply swap it out. So you start off with a smaller one, but as your fish get bigger, it might block up too easily. You just swap it. And we'll often have multi-sized outlets as my fish get bigger. And the ability of being able to take it out the tank, clean it and put it back, the simplicity of it, for me makes it the preferred method of drainage. Alright, so then what we're going to do is cut the grooves. If you cut too many grooves, you're not going to get enough of a draw to suck those solids out. Too few grooves, you're going to limit the water flow. Okay? Now, my recommendation is you go half of the outlet and the other half you don't. And also only on one side that's going to face the direction of my water flow. Make sense? So, again, if you don't get it right first time, you can always add more. It's very hard to remove. So you'll mark, let's just say every 5 centimeters. Okay, I'm going to go up to 40. And you can actually go to 45 because this is almost a meter. Now, when you're using the angle grinder, and I know I didn't earlier, I highly recommend safety glasses. So, make sure you wear these, and whoever's helping you also wears them. I think you might want to stand back a bit. And that's just to stop any debris going into your eye. Okay. So just be careful with angle grinders. If it does lock on, don't panic. It's got a way that you turn it on and it stays grinding so you can control it better. Make sure you turn it off, make sure it stops turning before you put it down. So unless all of you look like this by the end of today, I'm not going to be happy. Okay, so you can obviously get different disc sizes. This is a medium disc. As you can see, I've got nice good grooves, but definitely fry and very small fingerlings will fit through that. But I normally don't design my main system for fry and fingerlings. I'm designing it for juveniles. Correct. Okay, so we've got that bottom part in. Now we need to do the up. We know that that's 90 centimeters to the outlet. This piece here is typically about 30 centimeters big or long. So I'm going to have at least 15 centimeters down. So I know that this pipe is going to be about 75 centimeters long. So I'll grab another piece. Let's measure that up. And you can always make it smaller if it is a bit long. And it's the same with those grooves. You can always add more grooves if you have to, but you can't remove them. So I always operate a little bit on the side of caution. Okay. Goes in like that. Okay, now I need to make my extender or my expander. This 110 end cap, this 50mm pipe has to be able to fit through it. So when I'm going to drill my hole through here, the size of your hole saw is almost half the size of the pipe that you're pushing through. And the reason for that is you have to get that lip on the inside, which is going to help secure it. Okay, so for a 75mm pipe, in order to push that through, I'm actually going to look for a 50mm hole saw. Okay, there's a 51mm.
What do you mean when you say that it needs to be angled towards the water flow, the way the water is pumped into the tank?
The way that the water will flow in a circular manner. This must flow against the flow of the water, so that the solids are pushed in. Okay. So there we go.
So our water will flow clockwise. Right.
I think so. In the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere.
I mean towards this.
Yes. We'll test it later. Okay. So that's quite simply how I add my hole saw on. This little piece here is really useful for making sure I get a nice hole in the middle. Now when drilling, you might well want to just put it on a piece of pipe like that to lift it up, and that hole has to be in the middle. There's my hole. Like I said, that hole has to be smaller than my pipe. If that hole's too big, you're not going to get a nice seal on it. Alright, can we get some water again? We need that just to set it. And just one other piece of advice is actually take it off before heating it. Otherwise, not that it bonds, but what will happen is this end cap will expand and then it will become too loose. Okay. Obviously don't overdo it. Now my 75mm pipe pushes in. Get my water.
Magic.
Okay. Anyone want to know what 75 to 110mm reducer is going to cost you? Okay.
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're not cheap. Not cheap at all. So that's how I'm going to be able to connect this pipe onto my outlet there.
What's the hairdryer called?
Hairdryer.
What's the
Heat gun.
heat gun?
It's a heat
Okay.
gun. Yeah.
Far more manly.
Believe me, if you use your wife's hairdryer, you're not going to be in the good books. Alright, so there you go. That's a reducer made.
Very nice.
Okay, very useful. The next thing we're going to do is the outlet here. Now remember the size we said was 15 centimeters. To the center. So that just want to mark where the hole's going to go through. Now how do we do it? Well, exactly the same as we did for the end cap. And you're all going to get a turn to do this, so don't think you're all out of it. Okay, let's see if it's warm enough. Just to set it. Okay, so you can see I've created another joiner. So let's finish constructing this. My end cap. Goes on nice and snug. That. Let's put this down. Okay, let's go see if it fits. Ladies and gentlemen,
Nice. That is
my water's already draining out from the bottom of my tank.
That's a little bit of a show offie, I think.
Let's just straighten that, and you'll see that the actual solid lift, you can twist it, goes to the middle of my tank. As my water flows or circulates around, the solids get drawn in, get sucked in, lifts up, and from here we go to our contact. Okay. As I put water in, the pressure will increase. As the pressure increases, my water is going to start to drain. This also holds my outlet in place. So one thing here, my outlet's a bit high. I'll get my saw. We'll cut that down. If you want to just grab a hacksaw there,
which will allow overflow when you
in case it blocks.
Okay.
What does it
Otherwise-
matter if it's, sorry, what does it matter if it's higher?
Because what will happen is if my solid lift blocks, let's say I'm not cleaning it as I should, and it blocks up and my water is coming in, my tank could overflow. So you just
flow back into the tank.
So then I know that my outlet's going to be a little bit lower for my water to overflow into. Okay,
But you don't want this in your fish water, though.
the plastic, yeah, ideally not, but remember I'm going to be running it.
No,
it's
sure,
gonna
but
get
this is
filtered.
just for, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to harm the fish. It will get caught up in my filters. But when I'm constructing, you're not going to be able to avoid it. Okay? But that's also when I run my system, clean it out. If my system has fish, I'm definitely not just going to cut over. But it's just so I know I get my heights right, and I'm more happy with that. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
This is 110 cap. What it is?
75,
I mean this one.
110 end cap.
And this,
110 and 75.
they are the same in diameter. I mean, this is 110 diameter.
Yes.
And then
That is 75.
End cap for 110.
end cap.
The end cap is 110. It's called an 110 end cap.
Also, there is an allowance to allow this.
Yes,
getting-
correct.
Oh, okay.
It's designed to block the end of a pipe.
Okay.
We're just multi-purposing.
Oh,
Why don't you go to, why don't you just keep it to 75?
The reason is this, as it expands, it helps draw the solids. Because the solids get to about here. As it expands, it just gives the solids a bit of a draw into this area and allows them to drain out. We've just found it works that much better. Okay, but your solid lift costs you not even 100 Rand. You see? Very easy, not so difficult.
How do you get that flange in?
The flange, this is PVC pipe. You can see I've done exactly the same with a heat gun.
Yeah.
This is flat PVC sheet. Heat gun, I've cut my hole, heated it, pushed a 75 pipe through, and I've got one on either side of my plastic. Then I bolt it and I glue it. A flange that cost me 20 bucks.
And this can cost you like $300, for instance.
Oh, easily.
But that's
But
gotta
the
be
issue
waterproof.
is a lot. Yeah, but when you glue it, it will waterproof it.
Yeah, you just use marine silicone.
The issue with a lot of tank connectors is when you twist them, it actually weakens the tank as you twist it in. So gluing it and bolting it is actually a much stronger method.
And the surface area you use here, it's much better than the ones you
Yes.
buy that's just that.
Tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very easy way, but you can get through liner, plastic, anything like that. If you can't find the actual PVC sheets, you get 110 mil pipe, you heat it and you push it flat, like what we did with the end caps. You flatten it and then you make your flange. Okay, cool. So let's split up into teams.